Okay, let's see if this works. Hello, everybody in YouTube land. Good evening. First, let's do a little sound test. Make sure you can hear us. This
Hello,
is Pete.
everybody.
It's Peter speaking, and there's Thor. Make sure you can hear two voices. Can you guys hear two voices out there?
Thor checking in.
Okay, let's see if this works. Hello, everybody in YouTube land. Good evening. First, let's do a little sound test. Make sure you can hear us. Unshaved gentleman, that would be us, yes. Okay, I'm getting some yeses on YouTube. You guys can hear both voices. So that's good. Fantastic. So tonight this is Ask Me Anything event with Bear Bull Traders, and Thor and I are happy to host you here. Really what we're going to be doing tonight is this is an opportunity for you to ask us any question you want. So what I'll ask is start immediately posting into the comments any question that you want to have answered. Obviously, we're focused on trading here. We'd like to be able to answer your trading questions, whether it's a question and right from the beginning. How do you get started? How does it work? What should I do to get started? Or really advanced questions about trading strategies and approaches. Thor and I are here to answer any one of those. What I've said all along, a little jokingly, you can ask us anything, personal lives, world, cultures, history. We don't promise to answer them, but you can ask. So while you're getting some questions in there, why don't we introduce ourselves? So as I mentioned, my name is Peter. Hi there. I've been with Bear Bull Traders for almost 3 years now, and I've been a trader full-time for 2.5 years. And I've been a trader in the markets for over 25 years. I had a great career working in IT as a senior executive for multinational corporations. And I also worked, I was a partner in a consulting firm. I've owned my own companies. And when I retired from that, I was really looking to do something that was passionate for me, that I could really sort of enjoy doing during the day. I engage personal passions in the evening with a lot of charity work I do, and I really wanted something that I could do that would sort of give me the excitement and a little bit of return in it. And trading fit that bill perfectly. I love to trade. I just love sort of the opportunity to put your wits, if you will, against the best in the world, and that's something I get to do every day in the markets. Thor?
Hi, everybody. My name's Thor Young. I've been trading live full-time for over a year now. I've been with BBT for a little over a year and a half. Actually, my first experience with getting into the stock market outside of some stuff that I did was coming into BBT, so that's really where I cut my teeth right there in the BBT chat. Professionally,
All right, so apparently, Thor, your audio is pretty low. Interesting. All right. Okay, guys, hold on a sec. So the sound, Thor, is obviously coming. It's actually coming from my speakers to the mic, so that's why you're.
I see.
So that's why the sound is so bad. It's already bad coming through our connection here, but then apparently it's just that one step even better. So let me just give me 1 sec. I'll turn you up here.
Yeah, see if everyone can hear me good, guys. Well, I hear me.
Yeah, that should be good. That should be a little louder anyways.
All right. Thor's back. Hey, Mustafa's in the house. What's up, guys? Seth. Seeing some familiar faces in here.
All right. We've got it. Suggestion was to run it through the mod room if you want to turn on your mic and broadcast through that, Thor, if you're able to do that. We'll see if that
Yeah,
occurs it.
I can give that a shot.
Okay. All right. While we're getting the sound worked out, why don't we get started with some of your questions, and we'll get the audio worked out. I saw a couple of questions for Thor in there. Let me just go back up to the top, guys. Again, just post them in the comments, and we'll happy answer any questions. If you don't have any questions, I got a bunch that I'm going to ask Thor. So you don't want that. So you might as well get your questions in. So, all right, let's get started here. Yeah, just throw your questions. Gordon, I know you're asking in the chat, how do you throw your questions? Just put it in there. And we'll go through all of the comments and find them out. So, actually, Thor, the first one's for you, right? Somebody's asking a very specific question about Facebook today and about it popping. You see that? Dwayne? Oh, wait. Let me know, guys, if you can hear Thor.
Can you guys hear me all right? I'm broadcasting a little differently through the room now. No? How about you, Peter? Can you hear me at all?
Well, I can hear you, but you're coming through my mic.
Oh, no.
No Thor.
It seems like they can hear me in the mod room, but I don't think they can hear me through the bridge.
Oh, wait, now it's saying it's good. You guys can hear Thor?
All right.
All right.
Are we hearing me? What's going on here? All right, 1 second. Let me get my questions pulled back up. Why Thor, not Iron Man? Excellent. That's a good question. All right, so if everyone's hearing me, I'm going to try and get into this. So you said you found one. It was by Dwayne.
Yeah.
Let's see.
All right, Dwayne, yes.
Dwayne, yes. I can hear you both. Sorry, I'm having trouble. There it is. What specifically told you that Facebook was going to pop today during that trade you did with us? Because I was also watching the SPY, and I thought that Facebook was moving with the SPY. So when I trade, most of the time when I'm trading, I like to utilize specific levels, and I like to choose stocks that are catalyst stocks. One of the reasons I like to choose catalyst stocks is because personally I believe those stocks have a higher probability of moving independently of the market. So what I most likely saw at that pop was we were probably reclaiming like a key level going above a specific amount, like $207 or something like that, I think maybe was it. And then I see that, the momentum build there and it break above. So I take it above that. I do look at the SPY as an indicator, but generically, if you're trading a good catalyst stock, the overall market demeanor shouldn't impact it too much. As long as you're not bound in there. But that's probably why.
Okay. And Thor, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good. Okay. Well, let's go then. Mustafa, the next question I see here is from you. He said, what needs to be captured in a journal? That's a good question. So, but it's not one I can give you an exact or specific answer to. A journal is a very personal sort of record of your trades that you really want to use for your own education. So, my best advice is record the information that you most are going to find relevant when you go to review your trades. Now, I'll just give you my example. So what do I keep? I like to keep charts, and I actually keep charts of every stock that I trade in 4 different time frames. I keep a 15-minute chart, a 5-minute chart, a 2-minute chart, and a 1-minute chart, because that gives me all of the levels I would have been watching during the day, or all the key ones. Daily levels, I don't need the daily chart because I can find that anytime, and I usually mark those so they will appear on my other chart time frames. Then, for information, I record things like, what was the risk that I was anticipating taking on the trade? 20 cents, 10 cents, a dollar, whatever it is. What is that risk? I also record what is the pattern that I thought I was identifying. So not the pattern that actually happened, the pattern that I was attempting to trade. I record my entry and my exit, and that's just more of commentary. What did I think about my entry? Was it a good entry, a bad entry? Did I chase it? Did I go in too early? And then I also then record notes on the trade, right? Was it a good trade? Was it a bad trade? Anything else that I want to record to remember for later. So that's basically what I record in every single trade. Now I shortcut that process sometimes. And when I shortcut that, I'll sometimes just take some general notes, probably because I've been doing it for a couple of years, so I get very familiar with it. And, you get lazy, frankly. Now, I also use a tool called TraderView, which I like. It's just an online web app that allows me to load my trades in very quickly. And then I put keywords against it. My keywords are usually sort of the patterns. And then I can go back and I can run stats on it. So which patterns are most profitable? Which patterns do I trade best at different times of day? It sort of gives me all sorts of other stats. So my journal comes in multiple parts. There's the manual journal I keep in a PowerPoint document, actually, on my desktop, and then the information I keep in TraderView. Thor, how do you journal?
I've been using TraderView. I'm also looking to try the new chart log. I've heard some good things about. One thing that I add to that, which I think you basically covered in some of your criteria, is I think it's really important to list how you felt about the trade. Because I've had some of my trades where I've actually had a very successful trade, but I mark on it, how'd you feel? And it's just kind of like, meh. I didn't really like the trade because I knew it wasn't a good setup. I knew I actually kind of, rushed into it maybe or so. If I'm not feeling the trade as well as it could be, then I'll often throw that in there as a keyword, trades you shouldn't have taken even though they worked out.
There you go.
So,
yeah.
All right, moving on, right? You want to do another?
Yeah, I'll go to the next one. So Gordon's asked a question, how do I change the spark plugs in my 2002 Honda Civic? So, Gordon, the first thing you do is you drive down to the nearest Honda dealership and you ask them how much they'll give you for a trade-in, realizing that your car is 18 years old. Then you buy yourself a new vehicle.
And for the record, I have actually owned a 2002 Honda Civic, so I know exactly how to change the spark plugs. But I also follow Peter's recommendation immediately.
There you go. All right. Hey, I like the fact they're putting some humorous questions in here. Okay, David Atkinson asked the next one, Thor, if you can see that.
Yeah, I'll take that one, since it's for me, I guess. Do you concentrate on one stock at the open or multiple ones? So I am very, very rigorous in trying to eliminate my stock list as much as possible. So I do like to watch at most maybe 3 stocks at the open. Now I'll have a secondary list, so I'll have like 3 stocks that I'm really watching for the open, and then I'll have 2 or 3 that are kind of on burner in case nothing really wakes up or nothing's really looking good. I've already got some things I'm prepared to look at. But right before the open, I do generically try and whittle it down to just that one good stock. Today, for instance, I traded Facebook, short and long today from the open through the close, and but that was my only at most maybe Facebook, 3 stocks. I was really dialed in on it. So yeah, generically, I'm just after one stock right at the open, but I got a few on burner just in case.
There you go. The next one's
how about you, Peter? How many are you watching?
Oh, me? Well, yeah, that's a good question. So I can display on my screen at any one time 6 stocks. So I will watch a maximum of 6 at the open, but the reality is I've learned I can't watch more than 4. When I started, 1 to 2 was all I could handle. Over time, I've realized I can actually handle a little bit more, and I'm able to put up more stocks and sort of flip through them. But effectively, I still can really only watch 2, like 3 maybe. I've got 4 that I can flip through. It really depends on how sort of active those stocks are right at the open. But I said 6 was what's on my screen. The reality is I'm probably watching somewhere between 2 and 4 every morning. So,
Nice.
Thor, the next one was directed
James,
to you as well.
Yeah, could you please outline how you update the montage to include the level 2 readings I see during your recaps? Your level 2 is much deeper versus my own. So I do love me some level 2. So what you do, if you're utilizing DOS, which I'm going to assume because you're asking me about a setting that you're going to be using DOS, but this might be applicable in multiple platforms, but basically you go into the level 2 and you're going to go into the config, and then you're going to go to the tier settings. And you'll see down, on your main config, you'll see the tier settings. I think my primary tier is set to 100. So I see 100 different price levels that are available on the tier 2. And then you've got your ARCA book and your different, your different exchanges or MMIDs. And you can limit a couple of those books by the amount of tiers you want each book to occupy. And I think I have that split 50-50 and 50 or something like that. So, and that's how I get those. And I don't know if that works on every platform, but definitely in DOS, that will get you a whole lot. If you do that and you're still not seeing the depth you want to see, double check your subscription to your data provider. They may not be sending you all of the books. There are some subscription levels where you may be signed up and they're not actually sending you ARCA book. You're signed up for options data instead. I've heard that happen a lot. So if your tiers are set but you're still not seeing stuff, I would check data as well.
There you go. FM14 was asking a couple of good questions in here, but actually, let me go up to Mike's. We talked about that one. I think you told everybody how long you've been trading, Thor. Probably asked that question before we did our intros. But FM14 was asking, how do you survive a first year? That's a great question as well. That's a tough one to answer because I think that depends on your personal scenario. So, look, specifically what I'll say is, we talk about trading for a living a lot at Bear Bull Traders, and that's what we're about, figuring out how we trade long-term such that you can make it a sustainable part of your life. But it should only be a part of your life. If you want to survive your first year of trading, you need to reduce the stress on your trading as much as possible. So my best advice would be, don't quit your day job if you've got one. Make sure that you've got enough funding that you can survive, your worst case scenario in terms of pullbacks. Whether that's losing 50% of your account, whether that's losing all of your account, you need to decide what your worst case is, but you've got to build that in, because if you know you've got that thought through and backed up, you're not going to be panicking over every time a stock pulls back on you, or every time you have a losing day, or heaven forbid a losing week or a losing month. They happen. It's going to happen, right? Especially when you're starting out. So, and the more stressed you are, frankly, the more you're likely to lose, because you're not going to trade properly to your stops. You're not going to obey the technicals. And Frank, I'm telling you this because I've done it. I still do it on a regular basis when, I'm not careful. You get nervous. I mean, heck, I can show you a couple of trades today where, I got out of the trade because I was nervous about the movement. The reality is if I'd stuck to the rules I'd put in place and what I expected to happen when I entered the trade, it would have been a green trade. So, my best advice, how do you survive that first year? Reduce your stress level as much as possible. Thor, anything specific or else you wanted to add?
No, that's so on point. I did when I started day trading, I actually did leave the day job to do it. But the second thing you said was completely correct. I had all of the financial means in place so that I could just concentrate on that and not have to worry about that. And then the one thing I throw on top of that is make sure you've got, before you get into day trading, really make sure you've got the support that you need in your personal life. Becoming a day trader doesn't just test you, it's going to test the people that are in your lives, especially as you encounter the learning curve. Nothing like going to your spouse that day and then saying, oh yeah, it was a pretty good day, I lost $400. If your spouse isn't really dialed into what you're trying to do, that's that might not be a great conversation, and you don't want to get pressure on both ends. So you really got to make sure that you've got, plus for your own psychology, you gotta have the support. And so so my thing is have a good support system in place and be prepared, because the first year, it shakes out the majority. So if you can survive the first year and you're still interested in doing this after a year, then you're probably up on a good percentage at that point.
Yeah. Blake H was asking, what's your longest green streak? Look, let me answer it with a piece of advice. So my longest green streak in terms of continuous days was about a month and a half. I had 20. I think it ended up being 28 days. 28 days of trading, which spanned 45 market days, but I was actually working a job at the time, so I wasn't trading every single day. And it was great. However, one thing I've learned about green streaks, with me, they always end with a bang. I don't like green streaks anymore, because the longer they go, the more nervous I get about when they're about to fail, because every time I've come out of the green streak, I have a big red day. Why? Because what happens is my psychology starts to get in the way. I get afraid of losing, and then when I'm in a losing day, I'm desperate to make it back because I don't want to ruin the green streak. And you know what happens, right? As soon as you get desperate to dig out of the red, usually you just get deeper in. So what'll happen is I usually end up with a max loss day, and then I'm like, oh my God, what the heck happened? And then it usually takes me a good 3-4 days probably to get back into the swing of things, to trust myself again, to get back into the mode. So I actually don't mind a red day every week or two, because frankly, that reminds me of the fact that, hey, look, it's okay. This is working, and there's still, and I have to pay attention and make sure that I'm always focused on mature trading. I've gotten better now where frankly I can sort of get it to, instead of a red day, I'll end up with like sort of a break-even day, slightly green. Those are not bad because they also serve as a reminder. Now Thor, on the other hand, he's on an 876-day green streak. I only exaggerate
not
slightly.
Quite. My longest green streak's pretty stretchy, but it's a few months. But my thing that I want to reiterate though is, green streaks are fun, but they're kind of irrelevant in some sentences, because if you think about me, like my average amount that I'm trying to make per day is relatively low in comparison to the average amount some of even at our BBT, the bigger trading mods are after. So some of the, Norm, Andrew, these guys, Peter, a lot of these guys, they'll make in one day, or in what I generate in a week. So it's a lot easier for me to have more green because I'm generically stopping much earlier. I have a much smaller threshold that I'm trying to achieve. And it helps me, avoid that because it's just less risk. So, but you got, these guys, maybe they won't have a green streak. Maybe they lose $300 or $400, but then they come back the next day and make $3,000 or $4,000. It takes me the better part of a month, or a couple of weeks to generate that. So, it's all kind of in the eye of the beholder there on the green streak.
Yeah, indeed. All right, I'll see maybe we can speed up our answers here a little bit, because I notice we're almost half through our time. We got a lot of questions coming in. So
what?
But I can't avoid the humor. Blake H is asking, what's the atmosphere like on Mars? Tell you what, I personally don't know, but next time I run into my good buddy Elon, I'll ask him.
Yep.
All right. Super.
Maybe he'll get that terraformed for us.
Yeah. Super Invandrer says, can we trust moving averages? The 9 and the 20 EMA, the 50 and the 200 SMA. Look, I'll answer for myself. Actually, I was just going to say yes, you can trust them, but then I started to think about my own answer and say, look, they're an indicator like anything else, right? In any given stock, at any given time, they will give a different level of support or resistance based on what's been happening that day and the specific stock movement. I know that may sound a little wishy-washy, but the reality is you have to watch a stock during the day and just see what's happened the last time it ran into the moving average, no matter what it is. 9, 20, 50, 100, 200, I don't care what it is. You sort of have to have some of that history to know, it may be that, if you're watching a stock and it's blown through the 20 or 50 moving average, all day, it's not relevant. but it might have obeyed it like in the previous week. Sometimes those moving averages change personality, and I use them every single day, and I rely on them. However, I acknowledge the fact that they are single indicators which have sort of changing personalities. Today, I had some great trades using the moving averages. Thor, you and I talked about a nice one that I had on MU with the moving average cross and the break. But some days, right, those fail like 10 times in a row on me. So, I just say, yes, in general, they're good indicators because a lot of people use them, but you can't trust them, absolutely. Just like you can't trust anything absolutely, right? Because if something worked all the time, trading would be easy. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking on that whole thing. Is almost the exact same. I really do like moving average crosses. I think that's one of my preferred utilizations of them, and I've been stealing that from you. I do think that they work good. But I love what you said at the beginning, and I'm gonna just expand on that. When you're looking at a chart and you're trying to figure what average it's going on, or is it honoring it, look at the chart, look at for what average that it's bouncing off of and honoring the most. And that could be a significant average. But again, one piece of a very, very large puzzle to take into account.
All right. I'm just looking at some of the comments. You guys are commenting on my comments. All right. It'll be tricky when we get there. Pablo was asking one of my favorite questions. I said there's two questions that we get asked all the time. How long does it take to be a consistent trader, and how much money do you make? Both I find are misleading questions. They're honest questions. People really want to know, so you can gauge your own scenario. I understand. However, your scenario is going to be radically different than anyone else's. But let me tell you my scenario. How long did it take for me to become consistent? Well, I started day trading in 1999. And I lost money. And then I made some money in 2000 and 2001 during the tech boom, and I more or less broke even over the whole period. Then I was concentrated on my job, and I didn't come back to day trading until about 3 years ago. And then in that period, it took me 2 of the 3 years to become what I would consider consistent. But the definition of consistency is again, independent. What do you mean? Like making money every day? Having green weeks consistently, green months, right? Or making a certain amount. That's a tough thing to answer. So I would say by my definition of what I was looking for, it took me about 2 years to become consistent, and I feel that every day I'm still working on it. I gave you the history to say, hey, you can measure that and say it actually took me 20 years to get consistent because I started in 99 and it only really happened in 2019. So, measure it how you want. Thor?
Yeah, same point there. I definitely at least a full year for me before I started feeling consistent to myself, like where I'm actually trusting myself. Like, for instance, I still trade relatively small share sizes. That's still a lack of confidence. The reason I'm not trading 3,000 shares, I'm only trading 300 to 500 is innately a lack in confidence in my own personal ability. And I have to build that confidence, and it's just going to take time for me to get there. So who's consistent is true. And for me, the big thing to really keep in mind is what kind of bank are you starting with? If you're starting with a $5,000 account, and you're expecting 1% out of that thing, $50 a day on CMAG, for instance, or IB, where your commissions are going to be like, you're going to lose like $5 or so on a trade to get to fit. I mean, it's going to be hard to get consistent there. You may actually, as your account grows, those things become easier, not more difficult. So, and that's a lot of it too. Big factor is, or what are your expectations? Because your expectations go a long way to making you consistent. What is your definition of consistent, basically, as Peter said.
And for you to say you're not confident, Thor, I don't even know what to do with that, man. You're awesome, but it just shows, guys. I mean, the psychology is one of the toughest elements of this. I know we talk about it a lot, but as you can see, if you watch Thor's recaps and you can look at that and say, man, like Thor and I joke all the time that I say I want to be like Thor when I grow up. He jokes and says he wants to be like me. But that's why, because we see the good elements in other people's trading, but it doesn't mean we necessarily have confidence in ourselves. And I used to. to amaze me when I heard that. Like, you'd see people at the top of their game, professional athletes, and actors who are in A movies and stuff, and they still say how they lack confidence and they're always afraid they're not good enough and not getting roles, and it just we can all lack confidence. It all depends on what that means to you. So, anyways, we all have those crosses to bear. Nagaraj, you're asking, what are the patterns that I regularly trade? So, in our courses, which are posted in the Bearable Traders room, if you're a member, you can have access to them. I talk about a couple of patterns, but they're fairly standard. I've sort of named them something different because they're relevant or they make sense to me. But essentially, the base patterns I like to trade are VWAP breaks. So when the price crosses the VWAP, now in crossing the VWAP, it'll often do one of two things. It'll either do a double pullback, which essentially puts a little double top or double bottom, depending which direction it's crossing, before it breaks, or what I call the lightning bolt pattern, which is more or less a moving average pullback. I also like actual double tops and double bottoms. So these are the extremes of the day, right? When you're at the high of the day, I'm looking for a double top for a reversal pattern. If we're at the low of the day, I'm looking for a double bottom for a reversal up. So those are the patterns that I like best. I pretty much trade those all day. The double tops and double bottoms, really I trade off of the open a lot, because you're at the early part of the day and you're going to create new highs and new lows, and then I'm looking to see, is the price going to reverse or is it going to continue? And that's when we were talking earlier a minute ago about the moving averages, when they come into play, right? Sometimes the stock price will hit a low, it'll pull back, and it could hit a moving average, and then it'll continue along its way. Then I'm looking for a moving average pullback. But if it just sort of goes up a bit and comes back down, now I may start looking for a double bottom pattern. So I don't have enough time to get into all the mechanics of how that works, but bottom line, double tops and bottoms, you'll hear a lot of people talk about them, and we teach them here at Bearable Traders. And then I said the sort of the VWAP plays that you can get into. Those are the patterns I watch. All right, what do we got next? Follow my strategies. So Gordon is saying, I follow my strategies, I still can't become consistently profitable. What can I do better to change the situation? Whew, there's a good tough question. Without a lot of detail about your trading, Gordon. Look, the best advice I can give you off of that little bit of information is, one, make sure you're journaling. It's really tough to learn what you're doing wrong unless you've got a thorough journal of what you've done. And journal in a way that makes sense to you. I've described I like to keep pictures of my charts and then I keep notes on them. Maybe you need to record your live trading, right? Make sure you've got a PC that's powerful enough where you can actually record the screens and you can go back and review that. Some people find that immensely valuable. Other people just make a video at the end of the day and talk through what they were thinking and what they were trading, sort of like what we do in our recaps online. Maybe you need to do that. However, once you've got that journal in whatever form you've got, take some time to go back and review the journals and sort of try and distance yourself from your own trading and say, okay, what did I like about my trading and what didn't I like? And my best advice would be sort of make a list of those things. The stuff that you like, you want to concentrate on doing every single trade. The stuff you didn't like, pick one and only one and try and change it. It's sort of like, I don't know if anybody's a golfer out there, but to me, my analogy of golf is what I'll apply here. If you're trying to fix your golf swing and you've got to adjust your stance and your grip and the way the club face hits the ball and how quickly you're swinging it, you're going to make it worse, right? Because you're trying to fix too many things at one time and you're just going to screw up your swing altogether. In trading, it's much the same way, in my opinion. And this is just my opinion, but as much as you may have 5 things you think you really want to fix, your best bet to actually successfully fix them, pick one, work on it till you feel it's better or to a point where you're comfortable with it, then pick the next one. And I think you'll find along the way you'll gain some confidence in your trading and you'll have a better ability to assess how to fix the next thing, and it'll accelerate your ability to become consistently profitable. That's my advice. Thor?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is just outstanding. And that's my following to become consistently profitable. I think the main thing that I did was I'm a really big rule kind of guy. And why I don't know if that's my IT background or just the way I was raised, but I really like to create rules around my trading, what scenario it takes in order for me to be able to take a trade. And then if the trade fails or doesn't work, then I can go back to the rules. So, and if I followed my rules, then it gives me a very easy place to kind of go back to and say, okay, how do I tweak this and move this? Okay, I've tried breakouts 5 times this week. Every single time I tried to do a breakout, it failed. Why did that breakout fail? And then I go back, and with something like DOS replay and stuff like that available now, you can actually really go back and look at that trade and see what was going on and getting through. But for me, it's really paying attention to your rules and your strategy and seeing where they fail. And if they're failing consistently and you're following them, then then that's an issue. You're going to need to figure out where that's breaking down and change it. And maybe reach out on the forum or reach out to some fellow BBT guys or something like that and see if you can't chime in. And speaking of BBT, I think we're a little over halfway. Peter, you want to run us through some of the goodies we have for anybody who's not a BBT member, and talk to them about that before we roll out some more of these questions?
Yeah, it's a good suggestion actually, and we'll do it again at the end. But just to give you guys some stuff here. Hold on a sec. So we wanted to just give you a reminder and offer you a discount. So for attending here, we're offering a discount off your first month of a lifetime membership. So if you wanted to join and you're considering joining BBT, you can get your first month, instead of paying $199 per month, you'll get $99 for the first month, and then to the $199 per month. So you can use the discount code YTAMA. Just enter that into the field, and you'll have an opportunity to get that discount. And we'll put this up on the screen at the end so you can review it, and this will be recorded later. So that's if you want to become a member. But if you're not ready to become a member yet, there's areas of our community you can join for free. And I wanted to just mention at this point that you can join our community forums at absolutely no cost. In fact, we encourage people to join. There is a ton of good stuff in there. Everything from, how do I configure my setup? How do I set up an account? What broker should I use? Hotkeys are a big conversation. We probably have one of the best forums anywhere about how to configure hotkeys and how to set them up and use them. There's a ton of great information in there. Plus, you can learn about our meetups. And and you don't have to be a member to come to the meetup. We make Andrew buy us drinks all around the world everywhere we go, and he's happy always to meet new people and to buy a drink. So if you find a meetup somewhere near you, go. I will promise you that Andrew will buy a drink. If he doesn't, I'll make sure you get one. So you go to our communities. Feel free to engage them. You can find that on our page. You do have to register, but there is no cost, and I promise you, we're not going to market to you. We will not start sending you stuff because you're registered there. That's not how we work. So feel free to use our communities, and we'll come back to the rest a little bit later. So with that,
sweet.
Yeah, let's get on with some more questions. So maybe Thor, I can pass this directly to you. Mike is asking, what's your best advice for newer traders? We sort of talked about it in different formats.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mike, for me, the best advice for newer traders is to precisely identify your expectations and where you want to go. That is going to clue you in so fast to whether this is even conceivable or not. I get questions sometimes from someone who says, "Hey, I've been trading for 2 months. I'm still red most of the time. And I just don't think this is going." And then my answer to that person is, well, when are you planning on, 2 months red? That's not really that big of a deal. You're still basically learning the software at that point. And the person's issue that they were mainly happening was they just had this expectation that they could come in and be a day trader in a month. I think at the highest end of the curve, I don't think you could really expect to really be a solid, consistently paying trader in less than a year at the highest end of the curve to really feel. And that's if you're doing like what I did, where you make your life day trading. You've got money in the bank, so you're not worried about it, and you can sit down and you can just focus on day trading. Maybe, just maybe, you can be around there. But setting that expectation, like Peter said earlier today, for that we're on, maybe don't quit your day job right away so that you can wake up and you can trade the open, get a lot of practice in, and do that until you just know. Once you're getting good at it, and it's kind of a little cliche, you're going to know when you get there. There will be a point in time where you will trade and you will start to feel like you're just a little bit ahead of things, and you're feeling things right. And then you'll start to feel that confidence, and it'll go and it'll move forward. Right when that happens, the market's going to kick you, make you lose a bunch of money, and then you're going to restructure and then get back into it. But there will be that point in time where you will start to gain the comfort and say, okay, I'm good. And that comfort will come after you've lost thousands of trades, just like I have.
Yeah. Yeah, that last one is a good point, right? It's sort of like, I can't remember who said it was like for every winning basket I've had, I've missed 100. It's the same thing in trading, right? Sometimes we focus on the good trades because those are the ones we all want to talk about. But the reality is, almost for every winning trade, there's a losing trade out there, and probably it skews to more losing because we all had that startup period where nothing seemed to work. So, so for a new trader, I would say one thing. Do start by putting together a plan. You know that your plan is going to go awry, but have an idea of what a plan is. Again, we did a course that talked about this, that said, lay out a strategy and a plan, and whatever time frame you're thinking it's going to take, add 6 months to it at least. It's going to take longer than you think. It's going to be tougher than you think. You're going to have pitfalls when you think you've got it, and that's when, as Thor said, the market will come and kick you, and then suddenly you've got to start over again. This is tough. It's rewarding, and I love doing it, but it is not easy. And we're never going to tell you that trading is easy. You'll be a millionaire, in a year or two, or it just doesn't work that way. This is hard work. It's doable. It's absolutely possible, but it takes a lot of work. All right, moving to our next question, Thor. Cesar is asking you, why Thor and not Iron Man?
So, believe it or not, a lot of you may not believe this, but Thor is actually a given name from my birth. So I have been called that since the day I was born. So back before Thor was cool, and I actually went through high school with the name Thor, which would have been a lot cooler if Thor movies had come out maybe before that happened. But so it wasn't as cool when I went through high school. Wish I had it now. But yeah, maybe Iron Man would have floated a little bit better. Maybe.
I like one of our people that have joined us here tonight. They've chosen the name "I Suck at Daytrading," and telling me your sentiment right there. But hopefully, we'll see you again, and I'll say I'm getting better at day trading.
That'd be awesome.
Anyways, so Ranpreets is asking, how do you guys precisely check the support and resistance levels before entering into a trade? So I'll give you sort of 3 ways that I check them. One, I always check the moving averages, like we discussed a few minutes ago, right? Check on the moving averages. How have they been holding today? Are they relevant today? And in the different time frames. So when I check that, I'm checking the 1, the 2, the 5, the 15-minute charts. Those are the primary ones I would use. Secondly, I set daily levels. Using the daily chart, right? What has been relevant in past days? Usually that's highs and lows, area of consolidation, areas where the stock has either seen resistance or support. I will set those, and I will keep an eye on, if it's come to that price, has it paused? Even if it went through it, did it pause? Did it show some resistance? If not, then I may take it off my chart or say, okay, that one's not relevant today. The third thing I will do is, and I've learned this from Thor actually, is to use the pre-market to see what level was being obeyed sort of pre-market that may show strength. So there's an intraday levels that, again, may only be relevant today. Pre-market, it may have been holding at a certain price, or it leveled out and then moved up and then leveled at another place, right? And I will mark those, and you may not find those anywhere else but through the pre-market. But if you see that that's providing some relevance through the day, then I will use those levels. So those are the 3 ways that 3 types of levels I'll use, I guess. And before I go into any trade, I said I'll take a look and say, look, what's in play and what can I expect? Now, the key thing, and you ask a good question, but the key thing I would just add to that is, it's important you check the levels not only at the price point you're at now, but it's arguably more important, where do you expect to get to for both for your risk, right? Where you think your stop is going to be first and foremost, and then secondly, where do you think your profit area is, and what resistance or support, what have you got in the way between there? Because if you say, look, I need to take a 20-cent risk, but before you get to your 2 to 1 or within 40 cents of your profit target, there's a bunch of moving averages coming in the way. You may be taking a risky trade because you might get stopped if it hits one of those, and like I said, it shows resistance. So, take a look at all of those before you enter the trade. Make it part of your internal or your self-discussion anyways before you go in, so that you know what the trade should look like and how much resistance there may be. Oh, long-winded answer, but hopefully that helps. Mr. H, maybe I'll let you handle this one, Thor. First 2 months were all in the red. Should I switch back to a simulator account?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question. So it depends on how red, I think, is really important for me. Like if you're losing hand over fist and you're depleting your account right now, then I would say probably, 2 months straight red is a little bit. But it depends. Now, if you're red, but you're only losing a couple of bucks a day, then it may be beneficial to stay live. And why I say that is actually for me, I specifically, I really can't trade sim anymore. I've been trading live long enough that when I trade sim, there's just a part of me that has a little bit of trouble trading the way in sim that I trade live, probably because there's no real skin in the game, maybe. And I will often take very risky trades that I would normally not take live, but I'll take them in sim. And it builds bad habits. And then you go back to live, and you actually are worse when you go to live than you were when you went back to sim. For me, if your account is holding and you can afford to do it, what I would recommend doing is reducing your share size. So that you can still trade live and have a little meat in the game, so you take it seriously, but at the same time you're not risking blowing up your account. And then start identifying you really need to start identifying a good solid setup that works for you, so that you've got something to fall back on and really use. Peter and I both have our favorite plays that we dip to, and if your day is really struggling and hurting, you can almost say, okay, I know I can find a head and shoulders in here, let me find a head and shoulders pattern, look for a turnover, cross over some moving averages, boom, I'm short, let's do this, okay, I'm making money today. And there's a couple of patterns in there that you can get really comfortable with. But if you're losing a lot, then sim for sure. But if you're not and you can handle it, keep a little skin in the game and just reduce your share size.
There you go. Good advice. KZ, Thor, what's your biggest loss in one day?
Biggest loss in one day is about $600. So right around in there. So it was a and a caveat on that, because remember, I trade small share size compared to a lot of the mods out there. The caveat is that losing day, that losing day happened the day before my green streak started. So if it puts it into perspective about how awakening a moment like that can be, and if you don't turn it into a negative experience, but you turn it into a teachable moment. I had a really, really big loss day, and that was a big loss day for me because at the time I only had a $5,000 account. So losing, I lost a massive chunk of my account that day, mostly in commissions, just trading like trading like nothing, just going crazy. So, I mean, I've definitely had a couple, but it was the start of something good once it happened, actually.
There you go. All right, so some of these questions we've answered. People put them in again. So Pablo is asking, what percentage do you get out in the ask? I'm not sure I understand that question. Pablo, Thor, are you able to? I don't.
What percentage do you get out in the ask? Yeah, no, I don't. I'm not quite sure. Pablo, refine that and post it for me again, buddy, a little lower if you can.
Yeah, if you post it at the bottom, we'll get to it right away. If you could reword that, I'm not sure exactly what you're getting at. So, all right. Now we're getting to a lot of comments. What is your study routine, and what does it consist of? Oh, I like that question. Okay. It's changed over time. I'll admit that it's a little lighter now than it used to be because, as I was getting into it and sort of refamiliarizing myself with trading and getting back into it, I'd be reading voraciously, right? I'd read 2 to 3 books a week. I take copious notes and I go back and reread it because I found you always miss things when you read it the first time because you probably don't understand everything that was being said. And I went back and I would, oh, geez, now that makes sense. And I could put it into some context. So when I say starting, I mean like the first year and a half to 2 years, I would read a couple of books and then I'd do some simulation trading. Then I go back and reread the books, and I realized after doing some of the stuff, like it would make more sense what they said in the book. I'm like, oh, now I know what they're saying and why they should do that because I had a little bit of perspective, right, to put against it. Nowadays, I still, I don't have it in here, but I'm reading 3 different trading books right now. It probably takes me, because I'm reading a bunch of other stuff as well. They're just personal and casual. I probably only read those 2 to 3 books a month, but I still keep up on it. I review a lot of online videos. Probably I look through about 5 to 7, I would say, videos every single evening. Whether that's some of our member recaps, Thor's recap, Andrew's, just to say, okay, so what did they experience today? And I compare it to my own experience. And so, what are they looking at that I wasn't? What could I learn? Because, the memory is still fresh. And then I like to go through other videos. There's some other great trading and trading forums out there. Stuff that I review our courses a lot, the stuff we have in the Bear Bulls forum, but also S&B Capital and I don't know, there's other traders out there, and some of the psychology courses with Dr. Brett Steenbarger and some of his stuff and others. Like I like to go through those and sort of mix it up to mix the practical, technical stuff with the psychology. So a mix of reading and videos is sort of my study process, I guess, if that makes sense. Thor, what do you do?
I have a similar routine. I don't read well, actually. I don't like staring at white pages, but I am killer into audiobooks, and most of what you can find, including, you can find an audio. And since I have kids to run to school for an hour or so before and after I'm done trading, it gives me a really good opportunity. So I do a lot of through the years learning while I'm out doing other stuff. People laugh. I always seem to have an AirPod plugged into one ear or another. But I love podcasts as well. Anything that's coming through the audio medium. And then actually, depending on how active you guys are on Twitter, BBT is starting to kind of fill up on Twitter a little bit. We've got a lot of really active members out there. Some of them are in here like Dwayne, Hiltzy. We've got a lot of these guys out here that are, posting regularly on their Twitters, and they basically do a recap and a slide. You do the slide and it says, this is where I went in, this is when I went out, this is why. And it's actually quite amazing how much information you can pull. And I can go through 10 or 15 of those through the different guys really fast and see how everyone's day went. So the opportunity to learn and advance yourself as a trader is all around you if you're just, if you're willing to look. Other big way forums and my trade buddies at BBT. So many guys are just posting so much knowledge on a daily basis. You can almost occupy your day just reading that alone. So
yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. Picking the stuff that's meaningful to you it can be tough because there's a lot of good material. Cesar is asking, why do you guys trade all day despite having reached your goal? So I like the question. So let me say both Thor and I have very strict rules about how we trade. So specifically I'll deal with the scenario you've pointed out. Once I've reached my goal, basically I will only risk half of the amount that I'm over my goal. So hypothetically, if my goal was $300 and I've had a few good trades and I'm sitting at $400, I basically am $100 over goal. That means I can risk $50 on any given trade. So $50 before I have to stop for the day. So what I may do is I may reduce my size and say, well, I'm only going to take a $50 risk instead of maybe a $100 risk if that's what I was risking on the day. Such that if I do lose on the next trade, then, I'm all done. That didn't work out. I'm good. I'm not going to let myself go back below my goal. However, if I win on the next trade and my 400 goes to 500, for example, now I'm $200 over goal. I have $100 to lose. I may stick at the $50 marker, but now I could have 2 losing trades. But that means that I would never go back below 400. So what will happen is I'm actually preserving my capital, but I'm giving myself the opportunity to make more. That's how I look at it. I guess because I'm in the room all day, I'm also looking for opportunity, so I'm sitting in front of the screen anyways. But I do like trading all day, so for me, that's more or less how I manage it, so that it makes sure that I'm not actually risking. I'm not risking that money that I've already made to my goal. I'll risk anything above. Now, last thing I'll say is on the scenario where, let's say I've traded and I'm at $320, and I mentioned let's assume hypothetically my goal is 300. I may reduce my risk, so now I'm only going to take $20 risk on the next trade. It shouldn't change how I'm trading, it'll just change the amount I'm trading, right? So I'll trade fewer shares such that I'm not risking more than $20. And if I lose it and I'm back at 300, then I'm done for the day. I might still find and point out trades, but I won't take them myself. That's how I manage it. I think, Thor, your approach is similar, but you might have some other rules.
No, it's extremely similar, and I'll caveat that I came to this rule for a very big reason, which was all of my worst trading days have started when I was over goal for the day. So every time I've had a really, really bad day where I've ended up $100 down, $200, $300 down, it was always when I was over my goal. So, and that's why this rule is so important. And I think everyone who's trading actually should listen to what Peter talked about. And I have a very similar thing, which is I want to make at min, I want to be like $300 to $400 a day. If I land in that butter zone, basically, I'm not allowed to trade anymore. I'm just done, because any trade that I take, slippage or anything, risks putting me below my $300 goal, which means I'm now trading again out of necessity instead of trading out of desire, right? Which is not where I want to be. Now, just like Peter, if I land and I'm at $410 or $450, not at $350, well, then I can give myself a trade, only risking half of what I'm willing to do. So if I'm at $400, I could give myself a $50 trade, and then I still land, I'm still in my butter zone if I lose that trade. And then, like Peter, if I win another trade, that puts me up, and I have the exact same rule because I stole it from Peter, which is where I will do the same exact thing, where I will go up each time I have a successful trade. I readjust my tier and say, now I'm not willing to go below 400. Now I'm not willing to go below 500. Now I'm not willing to go below 550, and then eventually we'll stop out. So I think it works great.
Yeah. All right, guys. We're into the last couple of minutes. I know there's a few questions. Let's go into the lightning round. Thor, we'll have to keep each other honest. No more than 2-line answers here.
I like it.
I'll let you do this next one because it's more in your style recently. M&K Elmawardy is asking, ORB strategy. Do you recommend waiting for the first 5 minutes, or do you usually make your decision after the first minute?
So, depending on your strategy, if you're trading an ORB, I would definitely wait. I trade earlier than that, but I'm using pre-market levels, not open market levels for the breakout. If you're a novice trader, I would recommend waiting. It's very fast-paced, tons of volatility, no rush to get in there. Only do it if you're feeling really good about it.
There you go. Cesar is asking, if you have many stocks in your watch list, but none of them have a catalyst. Well, Cesar, I would say, first off, I think I know what you're asking, but something only gets on my watch list if it has a catalyst. That's sort of the definition, right? So basically, it has to be a gapper, meaning it has to be moving more than 2% from the previous day's close. It has to have significant volume pre-market. Then I look for what is the catalyst that created that gap. So that's how it gets on my watch list to begin with. However, if what you're asking is, what if all the stuff you were looking at just does nothing once the market opens, which has happened to me many times, that's when I revert to the people in the room who are sometimes watching other things, my permanent list, right, my tech stocks that I like to look at all the time, and then most significantly are scanners. That's where I use trade ideas, and I use the trade ideas scanners that help identify things that are moving in the market, and will point out things that are sort of gapping right now or having sort of rapid movements, so that I can take advantage of that. Debbie's asking, Peter, I notice you take a lot of reverse moving average cross trades. Absolutely, as I described. Is that a pattern you're most comfortable with? Yes, and as I described, those are my go-to. Double top, double bottoms, those are reversal patterns by definition. The moving average pullbacks are trend continuation patterns, but sometimes they turn into reversal patterns when they fail. So, but yes, I do like reversal patterns, and I do play them a lot. Maybe we'll take 2 more here. What rules do you follow when getting stopped out? Do you wait for another entry? Do you have a limit on how many attempts? Great question. I used to, once I failed on a trade, I would get frustrated and I would look at another trade. And then I realized I had the right idea, but my timing was off. That can happen, right? You might get a spike against you that gets you out, or the stock wasn't quite ready. I like now to try and continue and watch the trade. Today, for example, I took a trade 4 times. I wish I'd taken it a 5th because it was the 5th time that it finally worked. So the short, answer is that at this point in time in my trading, no, I do not have a limit to the number of times I'll try it, as long as the pattern is still setting up. If it's following my rules, if it's still a good trade right now, then I will consider taking it, notwithstanding whether it failed 1, 2, or 3, or 4 times earlier. The exception will be, just psychologically, if I hit max loss 2 or 3 times, then I'll probably say it's time to look at something else. I'm obviously wrong. But if those other stop outs were just me stopping at a break even or getting nervous, then absolutely I'll try it multiple times. Thor, next one was for you from Debbie. Curious about your opening breakout trades. Oh, that's a
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to throw on there too with the attempts. For me, I think it's as long as the pattern that you're trying to trade is holding, you can continue to try. Like if you're trying to do a breakout and you're taking it into the breakout, but then you have like a big shakeout or a big wick that stops you out, but then it comes right back into your range, you may want to go ahead and get back into that trade. The thing to not do is if the trade keeps going against you and you're basically just bottom picking it over and over again, trying to wait for a breakup. That's a little crazy. But if you're taking it off a pattern, off a level, then when you're doing that. And then to Debbie, Thor, I'm curious about your opening breakout trades. Do you wait for the first candle to close and the second to test that level and then take it? Or so the answer on that is when I trade the opening breakouts, I'm trading it 100% off of levels in level 2. So, which means I'm not really even concerned what the candles are doing at that particular time, which is why it's a little crazy for some people to take, and sometimes they don't seem as precise, but I'm waiting for it to break a specific pre-market level. When it breaks it, I go long, and then I have another level that I'm using to specifically stop out of if it goes through that level. It's so fast, I find levels work a lot better because you can give better space, and it gives you definitive areas to get back in and out. But it could be in the first 5 seconds, or it could be 2 or 3 minutes later. It's just about when it's breaking those pre-market levels that I like to use a lot.
Yeah. Now, guys, look, there's a lot of good questions. We're not going to get to all of them, and I apologize for that. There's 2 more that I want to take because I like the questions. I'll try and keep it really brief. Nick Ivanov, you're asking, do professional traders use stop losses? Every time I put a hard stop loss, I feel that I'm getting taken out. The short answer, yes. Professional traders absolutely use stop losses. They use them religiously. They've got a strategy and a pattern. No question, they absolutely use it. And Baron Goldstein, you're asking what advice you give to a trader who spent too much time focusing on technical skills and not enough on the mental, emotional skills. Like, you can't spend too much time on technical, I'll say, but if you did it at the expense of the psychological side, then I understand what you're saying. What I can say is slow it down, right? Don't rush into try and making it all work. If you think, if you say, I obviously haven't spent enough time on the mental and emotional side, then you're obviously experiencing some challenges in your trading, whether that's confidence or inability to stick to your rules or whatever it may be. Slow it down, right? Go back to base principles. Like I said, pick one thing that you're going to focus on, fix that, build some confidence, move to the next. And, hey, if you want to read more books about the psychology, then add that to your routine, even if it means taking out the technical side. That would be my advice on how to handle it in a nutshell. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the screen here, guys, really quickly back to those offers. So thank you so much for joining us. Thor and I are very appreciative that you spent your evening with us, and we were really happy to be here and answer some of your questions. Really sorry we didn't get to all of them. What I will offer, I'll do it verbally, but if you want to contact us, we're very accessible. You can get us through our forums, and we'll get notified if you tag us in the forums, which we mentioned are free to join, and you can join our forums in our community for free. If you want to email me, you can email me at peter@bearbulltraders.com. And Thor can be reached at Thor, Thor, at bearbulltraders.com. I always tell, I extend the invite all the time. Not everybody emails, but don't be shy. If you have a question, we're happy to answer. That's what we're here for. We really want to help make as many people as possible successful in their trading journey. And if you wanted to join us in the room, Absolutely. Consider our lifetime membership. It is the best deal. It really gives you an opportunity to experience all of the resources we have, including our psychology webinars, our success webinars, all of the training material that we've got, and of course, the live trading we do every single day that the market is open. And what's great about our room, we get a lot of perspective, right? Not only do you have Thor and myself, obviously Andrew, who founded the room and is there every morning at the open, unless he's traveling, which he'll be going to New Zealand soon. He's taking advantage of that trader's lifestyle. But we've got Brian, a very experienced trader. We've got Norm, who's fantastic. We've got Carlos. We've got Eamon. We've got a whole group of us that are in there trading every day to give you different styles, different perspectives, and different points of view. So consider the lifetime membership. Your discount code for tonight is YTAMA. Feel free to use that. That will be active for the next little while. And we did want to mention that one of our partners, Trade Ideas, is having a test drive. This is a really, really deep discount. I mentioned Trade Ideas. I use it to scan the markets every day. And we actually display them in our room. So if you're a member, you actually get the Trade Ideas scanners for free because we put them up for you. But if you want to configure them yourselves, there's a lot of value to that. You can set it up specifically for your trading and what you're looking for. Then give it a test drive. You can use their test drive. It's on for 2 weeks from the 3rd to the 14th of February. And that's for only $8.99. So just thought we'd mention that for one of our partners. So again, Thor, thanks so much for joining me here tonight.
Hey, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. This was an absolute fun time.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for being out there. And I'm sorry again for those whose questions we didn't get to. But, hey, we'll do some again soon, and we'll get to those questions. Or, as we said, email us, and we are honestly happy to answer, happy to send you whatever material we can to help you on your journey. So take care, guys, and have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon. Later.